Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Diane Hall, Community Outreach Director for AARP in Missouri. The AARP Missouri State Office is in Kansas City, and it's one of the 53 state offices serving AARP's 38 million members nationwide. Now, just a quick note about how our Zoom webinar will work. This may be old news for those of you who are Zoom experts now. Over the past year or so, you've had a chance to develop your skills. But just as a reminder, this webinar does not have your camera on and your microphone is muted. So please use the chat to make comments or ask a question. If you don't see the chat window, you can click on the picture that looks like a little cartoon character speech bubble. And if you're on a smart device, you may need to tap your screen to make that option show up. Now, here's a quick rundown of what we hope to cover tonight. And if you have any questions at any time, please let us know, put it in the chat, because we want to make this as interactive as we can. And tonight, we're going to be talking about AARP information and resources, which can be found online at aarp.org/veterans. What's available for caregivers through the VA, presented by Kim Windsor, a caregiver support social worker at the Kansas City VA Medical Center. And after that, we're going to answer your questions. And by we, I mean Kim is going to answer your questions mostly, because I'm sure her presentation is going to give you a lot of information and you will have some questions. And then we'll wrap it up and talk a little bit about the resources and remind you what we have. But before we dive into all these topics, as you probably know, May is Military Appreciation Month. So I'd like to thank those of you who are currently serving in the military or who have served in the past. Thank you. We salute your service and sacrifice for our great nation. AARP is hosting this presentation for caregivers that support our veterans because we have a long history of supporting veterans, military, and their families, including about 4 million who are AARP members. Tonight, we're going to talk about our resources for veterans. And before you ask, any of the AARP resources that I talk about tonight are for anyone, not just AARP members. And really, that's AARP's role tonight, to connect you with resources like those that are available through Kim's program at the VA Medical Center and AARP's resources that I'll run through. And don't worry, I have a list of resources. Kim has a list of resources. There will be follow-up email links that come to you through email after the program. Now, what resources does AARP have to offer for veterans and their caregivers of veterans? First of all, AARP's military and veteran support at aarp.org/veterans, which I've already mentioned. And that has all kinds of information for veteran and military families, including COVID-19 information and a special caregiving guide that is specifically for veterans and military families. We have AARP's family caregiving site at aarp.org/caregiving. That provides great resources for all types of family caregivers, including care guides, tips, tools, and videos. For Spanish resources, you can visit aarp.org/cuidar. And I hope I rolled that R appropriately. Spanish speakers out there, feel free to correct me. AARP also has a caregiving toll-free helpline at 877-333-5885. And it's a dedicated toll-free family caregiving line with live agents on there you can talk to, and they can suggest local resources and referrals. It is not a hotline. It's kind of more of a warm line. So it's got extended hours, but it's not 24/7. It's open Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. Central Time. And yes, I translated that into Central Time from Eastern Time just for you guys, because we are broadcasting in Central Time. AARP has a Facebook caregivers discussion group at facebook.com/group/AARP family caregivers. This is a great place to connect with other family caregivers and AARP experts. This one is 24/7. You can go there anytime and share stories and get moral support. You can also ask for practical help. You get lots of good advice from people who've been there on that Facebook group. AARP also offers a variety of caregiving books at aarp.org/caregiving books. It includes Juggling Life, Work, and Caregiving, the Memory Activity Book, and Meditations for Caregivers, and a checklist for family caregivers. AARP's also made some how-to videos and resource guides about caregiving, medical, and nursing tasks. And you can find those at aarp.org/no-longer-alone. It covers things like preparing special diets, managing incontinence, wound care, mobility, managing medications, and many of those are available in English and Spanish. The Community Resource Finder at communityresourcefinder.org provides referrals to local resources around care at home, community services, housing options, and medical services, as well as AARP events and Alzheimer's Association events. And the last one I'm going to talk about, and I bet Kim's going to talk about this one too, because I think we have this one in common. It's the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. You can find this at hiddenheroes.org. And the Elizabeth Dole Foundation raises awareness and inspires communities to support military caregivers. They encourage you to register at their national registry to find helpful resources and connect with your peers. Now, again, I know it's a long list in a short time, but like I said, those links will be coming to you in a follow-up email if you registered for this event. So I just wanted you to know that there are a lot of resources on AARP's website for caregivers. And there are also a lot of resources that are available through the Veterans Administration. So I'd like to welcome Kim Windsor, a caregiver support social worker from the Kansas City VA Medical Center. Thank you, Kim, for joining us.
Thanks, Diane, for having me. I really appreciate you guys holding this venue for us tonight.
Well, we appreciate you showing up for us because I know that you have a lot of good information through the resources that the VA has for caregivers that support veterans. So let's get right to it. Let me get you on your slide there. And if you want to take control, you can do that, or I can keep flipping slides for you.
Thank you. I am requesting control now.
There you go. You are approved.
Thank you very much. So as Diane said, I'm Kim Windsor. I'm a clinical social worker with the Kansas City VA. I've been with the VA for about 5 years. I've been a social worker with older adults for about 24. I am not a veteran myself, but I come from a military family. Grandfather was in the Navy. My father is a Vietnam Air Force veteran. So service is very important, and I really appreciate everything that our veterans have sacrificed and that our caregivers are providing them. So the KC VA Caregiver Support Program is what I'm here to talk about today. This first slide has our main phone number, 816-922-2044. That is our main number to reach our General Caregiver Support Program, which is open to everybody, and our Program for Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, which is a program that is a paid caregiver program that does have some eligibility criteria. The contact information, again, our main number is right there. Pam Triplett and myself are the paid side of the program. We also have some caregiver support staff. We have nursing staff and social workers that are here to support our veterans, and also a general caregiver support program. Let's see if I can figure out how to advance the slides. Here we go. We practiced this, but then in a live environment, it's not always the same. So the first thing I want to talk about is the program for general support, general caregiver support services. This is a veteran caregiver support program that is open to anybody, any caregiver of any veteran. You don't have to be service connected. You just have to be a veteran, and you identify someone as your caregiver. So it doesn't have to be a family member. It is anyone that you identify as a caregiver. You may have heard in the news that the VA is providing COVID vaccine to caregivers of veterans. So that eligibility extends to anyone that a veteran would identify as their caregiver over the age of 18. So the program for general caregiver support provides resources, education, and support to veterans, to caregivers of veterans. You don't have to be service connected. The caregiver is of any era. It doesn't matter. We just want you to know that we're here for you and the support is there. Some of the services that are offered, there is an Annie caregiver text support line that recently expanded to also include specific caregiver texts to folks that are serving, caring for veterans that have dementia. So there's a few different, they get a text, weekly, uplifting, supportive. Building Better Caregivers is an online education program. Caregivers can do that at their own pace to provide them education and support. The caregiver support line is similar to what Diane had mentioned about their AARP support line. It's staffed by social workers, and they will respond to caregiver concerns for any veteran that calls, and we'll try to help them navigate and get them connected to VA resources. General telephone support is done locally by our general support social workers in the caregiver program. Peer support, there is a peer support program that tries to match caregivers up with other caregivers nationally that may be helping someone similarly. So perhaps they're serving a veteran, a Vietnam era veteran who is living with PTSD. They will try to connect that caregiver up with someone who is in a similar situation that has volunteered to be a peer support person, so that they have someone to talk to that's walking the same walk that they are doing. Reach VA is something that our staff is certified in. It's a coaching program to help support caregivers tackle many of the similar issues that they're dealing with in caregiving for the veterans that they're working with. Caregiver Support Month is in November. Last year, we did have to go virtual due to COVID. We really hope that we're able to do some things in person this year as the vaccine, pushes out. But we do hope to have some in-person and virtual events this year to support caregivers. We have monthly education calls that are through the caregiver support line. Oftentimes, these are about stress management, self-care. There's various different topics that are pertinent to caregivers. We also host trainings that are collaborations with the Red Cross and the Alzheimer's Association. Coffee with Caregivers is something that we've had to back off of over the past year with COVID, but we do really hope that we're able to reinstitute a lot of those. Elizabeth Dole Foundation, the Campaign for Inclusive Care. It's all about educating providers about how to include caregivers in the conversation of all medical decisions for veterans, and how supportive and helpful that is. We also have education and supportive events throughout the year. Those are some of the things that the General Caregiver Program does provide for the VA. I am trying to advance this. Thanks for your patience with me. So the Program for Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, PCAFC, it was created in 2010. And really what's on that screen is all of the regulations that back up our program. Our VA instituted the paid side of the program in 2011. And in 2018, it expanded the program to include veterans who served prior to May of 1975. Initially, when Congress created the program, it was only for veterans who served post 9/11, so that younger population of veterans that were seriously injured in the line of duty. In October of this past year, it expanded to include veterans who served prior to May 7th of 1975. So that includes Vietnam, Korea, World War II. There's just so few World War I veterans left. But we are so grateful that we were able to expand, and we do plan on expanding to all veterans of all eras in 2022. So that's forthcoming. But at the moment, we still have to adhere to these particular guidelines of service. Okay. Next screen. I can see you giggling at me, Diane. I apologize for my rustiness. So the Family Caregiver Program benefits. Some of the benefits that the paid side of the program provide. Again, the previous screen I talked about, General Caregiver Support Program is open to everybody, regardless of the era that the veteran served, if they're service connected or not. In order to get support from the General Caregiver Support Program at the VA, help with navigating, talking with a social worker, just trying to kind of figure out which way to go. You can always call us. We will do our very best to help you navigate. And that is regardless of service connection, dates of service, anything like that. If you're a caregiver for a veteran and you need support, we want to support you. This paid side of the program is a little different, and it has some more criteria. Some of the benefits are there's some caregiver support training. There is a monthly stipend that is awarded to the caregiver if they are approved for the program. We do some case management on a regular basis. Every 120 days, we check in with the veteran and the caregiver to check on their well-being and adequacy of care. If the veteran, if the caregiver does not already have insurance, then there is a CHAMP VA insurance that is offered for the caregiver. Again, if they don't already have another option. They are also eligible for mental health services. They are eligible for enhanced respite care. There's some financial planning and some education and supportive services and some legal services that are offered for the caregiver if they are approved for the paid side of the program. Oops. Somehow I'm going backwards. I'm not sure how I did that. So we're gonna hopefully help me not do that again. I'm gonna go back to where I was. This is not something that I thought I would do whenever we practice this, so I apologize, but we'll get back to where we were. The eligibility criteria for the paid side of the program, the veteran must have been discharged honorably from their service, or they have to be undergoing a medical discharge. They have to have a serious injury that was incurred post 9/11 or prior to May 7th of 1975. They have to have a service-connected disability of 70% or higher. So in order to put an application in for the program, that's the basic criteria initially. They need to require care for 6 months, at least 6 continuous months, due to a moderate to severe need for a caregiver on a daily basis. So this is really a program for folks that are at risk for nursing home placement, and due to an inability for them to perform an activity of daily living. So bathing, dressing, grooming, feeding, toileting, mobility. Or perhaps they have a need for supervision, protection, or instruction because they have a functional impairment that impacts their ability to maintain their personal safety. So an example that I can give you of someone that I've currently worked with in this program is a veteran who is highly service connected for PTSD, served during the Vietnam War. And the reason why they ended up applying for our program is that the veteran has a diagnosis of a neurocognitive disorder of dementia. So they don't need our program because of their PTSD. They are in need of our program because of their dementia diagnosis, and they require their caregiver 24/7. They are not able to maintain their safety without their spouse, making sure they're eating and drinking and, changing their clothing and, that they're safe. So that is, an example of a need that we're seeing and that we're really grateful that we're able to support. Okay. I'm going to give up the remote control, Diane, and I'm going to let you drive if I can.
All right. And I think I just want to put it out there for everyone who is listening that I believe this is all my fault anyway. I was trying to put the VA support line into the chat, and I think we're sharing the mouse and I messed you up. So my apologies. It's not you, it's me.
Well, that's very kind of you. It is probably me, but I'll share it with you. So I'm just gonna let you drive. I'm not gonna touch the mouse anymore. This is my bread and butter. This is what I do on a daily basis to try to help veterans and caregivers get what they need. So some of the additional criteria is that there's an eligibility and appeals team. Myself and my coworkers, we do assessments with the caregiver and the veteran, and we're trying to paint the picture of why they need the help, what the caregiver has to do to help and support them to keep them safe. And so we try to answer that question, and we also try to show why it's in the best interest of the veteran to participate in the program. The services have to be provided by a family caregiver, and it can't be done simultaneously by another entity. So this would not be a program that would be appropriate for people living in assisted living. This is a program that's appropriate for people living in their own home or in independent living. And their caregiver is their family member or someone unrelated to them that lives with them and provides this care to them. The individual gets the care in their home, and they also have a primary care doctor with the VA. So that's some of the basic criteria. You can move to the next slide. The Caregiver Support Program, that website right there, that www.caregiver.va.gov, you can actually apply online for the paid caregiver program. You can find information on that website also about the general program and all services and supports like the Annie Text program or Reach VA. The caregiver support line, that 855-260-3274, that's a great number to call. If you are needing help with navigating, again, whether you're potentially part of the general program or potentially an applicant for the paid program, if you called that phone number and said, I need help, and they would figure out what VA they need to send that referral to, and we would reach out to you. The caregiver support program, the general caregiver program, the paid caregiver program, that is available at every VA nationwide. It is not specific just to the Kansas City VA. Of course, that's who I'm here to talk with you about, but if you have friends and family in other areas of the country and they are needing help, you should be able to help get them connected by that 855-260-3274 number or the website. Our local contact number is 816-922-2044. Sometimes you do have to leave a message, but we will call you back and we'll do our very best to try to help you get connected to the services that you need.
Awesome. That is a ton of resources and a lot of information pretty quickly. Lots of supports and services available through the VA. And I was going to say that I was sure that your presentation would raise some questions, but there are already some questions in the chat. And so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to stop sharing your screen so that we'll show up a little bit bigger now. There we go. One of the questions, and I think they're both actually about the stipend, but the first one was about if the caregiver is limited to an amount of money he or she makes. So is there like an income level that cuts them off to get that compensation? Could you talk a little more about that?
Sure. That's one of the beautiful things about the paid caregiver program is that the stipend is a tax-exempt medical benefit. So it is not taxable income. And that is a remarkable, wonderful thing. There are two levels of the stipend. The lower level is around $1,750 a month that's paid to the caregiver. And that's if the eligibility and appeals team said that this veteran has a moderate to severe need for a caregiver, then that would be the level one. The highest level of a stipend is someone that the eligibility and appeals team reviewed all the documentation, their medical chart, and all the things that we've said. And they say that this person was unable to self-sustain in the community, in their opinion. They're basically saying that they think this person would be in a nursing home if they did not have this caregiver. That highest stipend is around $2,800 a month. And again, that's approximately, it's based on locality. So depending on where you live, it might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but it is tax exempt. It should not mess up other benefits. Which
was the other question that was in the chat about that was, is it taxable income? Wow, that's kind of a really great benefit. I have another question in the chat. Are there any COVID rules or restrictions?
COVID rules for applying?
Now, I'm not 100% sure, and I'm going to ask Amber to jump back in the chat and clarify that for us, because I'm not 100% sure what she's talking about there. But I've got a question for you that I want to know. You said, yeah, you're here to talk about the Kansas City program. Absolutely. But now, is there a caregiver support program at all the VA medical centers?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
It is a nationwide program. The general program and the paid program should be available at every VA.
Well, this I will say that this kind of blows me away because I've worked with caregiving for some years now and with the veterans programming through AARP. And until I made just kind of a casual connection through a friend, I did not know about this program.
Well, and it definitely has expanded since October of last year. It's stood up in a lot larger presence than it hasn't had in the past. And I think that will only continue as, again, we expand further in 2022 to all veterans of all eras. They're going to still have that requirement of that 70% service connected or greater, but it's going to open up this benefit to so many more people that really need it.
Yes, it's just awesome. All right, Amber has clarified her question about the COVID rules and restrictions, meaning is the caregiver or the veteran, for either one, is a vaccination for COVID required?
Oh, by no means. It's a benefit that's available, but it's by no means required.
Okay. Now, oh, look, it's a question for me. Absolutely, if you want to share this recording, in fact, once we get it edited up on YouTube, we will put it out on our social media and things as well. But yeah, please feel free to share this with anybody who can benefit from all these programs, because between AARP and the VA's caregiving program, there are a lot of resources out there. Mm-hmm. Now, I know this is, I think I know that it's that the REACH VA is not your primary focus, mm-hmm. But one of the it's to me it sounds a little bit like a one-on-one counseling program.
It absolutely can be. REACH VA, again, all of our staff is trained in REACH VA, and it can be one-on-one. Work with a person on particular goals that they have, talking with them about their caregiver struggle. There are also REACH VA groups, so we do both. At the Kansas City VA.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I think would be good for you to share, maybe, and not because I'm nosy, but because I think people sometimes are reluctant to bring up issues, and there are a lot of sensitive issues around caregiving. So can you give us just an idea of the kinds of things that people come to the REACH program? What are their issues, so that people can say, oh yeah, well then I can bring that up?
Yeah, it really varies. It can be as simple as a caregiver struggling with prioritizing their own self-care or their own exercise, or figuring out how to schedule and take, that 15 minutes that they need for themselves, and to be okay about that, and to understand that by taking that time for their own personal self-care, whether that be a walk or getting their nails done or taking a bath or whatever it might be that helps them fill up their tank, that in fact, that is helping their loved one, because they are then they're better present, better able to meet that person's needs, and be the caregiver that they want to be. That's often something that we work with folks about. It really varies on it's very personal to the caregiver.
Yeah, I think one of the things that comes up a lot when I talk to caregivers, whether they're caring for a veteran or anyone, is just that reluctance to do self-care. Mm-hmm. They are just so focused on taking care of that person that they love so much, mm-hmm. that they do not take care of themselves enough. And you wouldn't. My friend Amy Goyer, who works with caregiving a lot, says you wouldn't try to drive your car cross country with an empty gas tank. There's no reason that you shouldn't fill your own tank, because mm-hmm. you can't take someone you love if you don't. Question about the REACH groups is, do those groups meet virtually? And my guess is during COVID they probably do, but do they normally? Yeah. Are there groups and in-person groups, or talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, at this time, you're right. It has been telephonic, and it has been virtual. We really hope that as we are able to get back to a better sense of normal, that we'll be able to have some of those in person. But those have been mostly telephonic at this time. But let's hope for better things in 2021.
And this is something that AARP's kind of gone back and forth about. Will you continue to have virtual options for some of these things?
I think so. I think we're gonna probably see how that looks like in November when we try to have our caregiver event. We'll probably have a mixture of online and in person. That's our hope. and expectation.
That leads into another question that I had personally, which was November is Caregiver Support Month. And I was going to say, do you have any special programming planned? And it sounds like you do. You want to talk a little bit about that?
We're working on it. We don't have anything to share at this moment, but we are definitely working on, getting our programming in place for November. Last year, we had advanced directives, we had, personal care, we had, some yoga, we had a lot of different programming. We tried to have 2 events a week last year in November. So we definitely hope to do bigger and better this year.
Excellent. Got a question in the chat. If a veteran in the past couldn't go to the VA hospital due to high income but needs caregiving, can they have a caregiver through your program?
I think you're probably talking about someone who's non-service connected. And in that case, if they're non-service connected, they would be absolutely eligible to have support through the general caregiver support program. Because if they were in that situation where their income was so high that they were not able to register and get their care through the VA, then they would be a non-service connected person. They would absolutely be, the caregiver would definitely be able to get support through the general caregiver program, but not the paid program.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah, and when you say the paid, I want to make sure that I've got the name for this right. Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers?
That's the program for comprehensive assistance for family caregivers.
That's the paid part.
Yes.
And then all the
AFC.
An acronym, because we love our acronyms.
We do.
All right, let me see. No more questions in the chat. So one of the things that I was a little intrigued by, and that's because I'm a little bit of a tech nerd, but the anti-text message support thing, how often do those go out? I think you said, go ahead.
Yeah, they get a text, 1 or 2 texts a week, and they're affirmations, positive things to help that caregiver take a second, hopefully read that text and just take a second to recenter themselves and ground themselves. And some of them are specific, some of them is general caregiving. And again, recently they just came out with a new one that's specific for folks taking care of someone that is, living with memory impairment.
So do they differentiate? Do they have a list for general caregivers and a list for people who are caring for someone with dementia, or does it just go out to everybody?
Yeah, we would actually enroll. So if we in the program, we would enroll someone into the program and we would talk with them about which would be the best option for them, whether it be the general anti-text program or if they are, living with someone who needs that memory support, if that would be, more helpful for them.
Yeah, and there's a question in the chat that kind of follows on to that. Are those automatic or do you need to sign up for these?
Yes, that the services that we talked about, even through the general program, are services that we would ask you to reach out to us and we would sign you up for. The general program or the paid program, we would reach out to us here at the Kansas City VA and we would be happy to talk with you about, which program would better serve you and which one you're eligible for and try to walk you through that process.
Okay. So probably because I was trying to do all the technical stuff, I may have missed some of the things that you said. I think you talked about quarterly education calls through the caregiver support line, or maybe I had that from somewhere else.
Can you tell monthly?
Monthly, not quarterly. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, there are regular phone calls that the caregiver support national program puts on. And again, most of the time, those are specific to, managing stress, burnout, working, caregiving for someone living with dementia, how to navigate, advocating for your loved one, various different topics. And those are often done telephonically. Sometimes they're done in webinars. And usually we try to, publicize that information. If you're on our mailing list or our email list, you would get that in the mail or by email so that you're aware of what, options are forthcoming and you can register for them. And most of them, again, are offered telephonically or by video, depending on, modality, what's better for you.
So on the website that you put up on your last slide, can people go to that website and find out when these things are happening?
You can absolutely go to that website and get connected with your local caregiver support program. And then they can hopefully, get you connected to the right services and programs that would support you and help you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of looking for like a calendar of events or trainings or that kind of thing.
There'll be some of that available on the main page, but a lot of times they'll be kind of trying to filter you through to get that special, hands-on assistance and support. A lot of times, I've again only been with the VA for about almost 6 years now, and a lot of times it's navigation. We do a lot of support with caregivers navigating resources and benefits and things that they have no idea is available through the VA. So those may not be specifically caregiver support services, but that navigation support, sometimes just talking to somebody that's not within your circle, not involved in your day-to-day caregiving tasks can be helpful. Just to have someone who's not in it to give you a fresh perspective and just to have a space for yourself.
Well, and I think probably there's a lot of validation that goes on too when someone calls in with a challenge or an issue or a need, and that you're able to go, oh, absolutely, there's a service for that. Or yes, people call about that all the time. I think that gives a little more comfort with the issues that they are having. Question about the videos that you were mentioning, that sometimes that there are video things for the trainings and educational things. Are they on demand or are they only live and at a certain time?
Usually they do offer those specifically at a particular time. That is true. They usually are, attend the event, not always available afterwards. We are working locally on our own kind of library that we'll be able to perhaps be able to share and push out to folks on a regular routine basis.
So do you guys have like a YouTube channel or like a video repository somewhere?
Not yet, but that is absolutely kind of what we're thinking about.
Well, I think our expectations of availability of that kind of stuff have shifted with the pandemic. Now we expect it to all be online anytime we want it, I think. Yeah. And that's going to be a little bit of a lift for some of us, maybe. Building better caregivers, the online workshop, does that run the same way as what you were just talking about?
The Building Better Caregivers is an online resource that we can help connect people to, and they are able to take that at their own pace on their own time. We would make the referral for them to get them connected to that resource, and then they would receive a link to their own personal computer or device, and then they can paste that themselves, and do that at a time that's good for them to have those resources available to them. So it's on demand.
And a question came up. It says, is there a cost to that? But that's a really good question. All these things that you've talked about that are on the caregiver support side, not the paid side, are there costs to any of those, or are those all free?
Yeah, there is no cost to any of our services, whether it be on the general side or the paid side. These are services for our veterans and their caregivers. Again, there are some eligibility requirements for the Program for Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, but there is not a cost on either side.
That is outstanding. Another question, can resources be mailed to us if someone is not techie? So if you
Absolutely.
How do we request that?
Yeah, you would call our number, our 816-922-2044 main number. We talk to folks all the time about our services and what our caregiver support program can offer. But we talk a lot about VA services, geriatrics and extended care services that are services offered at the VA, not administered by us, but that we are aware of that help and support caregivers and veterans. And we just want to help you navigate and get connected to the things that you need, regardless of whether they're caregiver specific programs or not.
Okay, so give me that phone number again so I can put it in the chat.
Sure, 816-922-2044. And that's our main number at the Kansas City VA Caregiver Support Program.
All right. mail you resources.
All the time. Brochures about adult day health care, homemaker home health aid, veteran directed care, our programs. We just want to help you get what you're supposed to have.
Yeah. And isn't that the thing? It shouldn't be a big trick to do that, but sometimes you just need a little help, someone to help you navigate all that stuff.
You know, as a social worker, that's the hardest thing is sometimes by the time I visit somebody, by the time I see somebody, it's so well past the time that they needed the help.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kim, you and I need to make a pact that we are going to carry resources so that those resources get out there to the people that really need them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Someone from St. Louis is asking, do you know the number for your counterpart in St. Louis?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but if you called our caregiver support line, our number that we have, our national number, they will be able to connect you to that. So our national caregiver support line that was in our slides.
I actually just put that in the chat. It's 855-260-3274. So yeah, no problem. I think that's an important number for people to have. So I've been putting it in the chat for you. So if they call that, then they will be able to find out who the person to contact in St. Louis. Excellent.
Actually, if you call that caregiver support line and you give them their information, they are going to send a warm transfer to that. They're going to send that to the caregiver program, and they're going to ask them to reach out to you. So
all right.
It's not on you. We're gonna hunt you down, and we're gonna try to connect with you and get you what you need.
So for those of you who don't know what a warm transfer is, it's just when you're talking to someone and they transfer you to someone else to talk to, right? So they don't go, oh, hang up and call back. I'm just going to transfer you to that right person, which is much nicer than having to call back and do it all over again.
And you don't have to start the story all the way over. Usually they're taking lots of notes, and so when we call you back, we can say, oh, we understand you called about your husband and that you're having this issue and you're needing some help navigating, and then you can take off from there.
Question in the chat that says, are the services similar across the state? And I'm interested in this too, because I'm from, as I have mentioned, Southeast Missouri, and there's a VA medical center down in Poplar Bluff. Does Poplar Bluff have what Kansas City has and what St. Louis has? Yeah.
Every VA has the program for comprehensive assistance for family caregivers, and every VA has the general program. How exactly it looks, how exactly it's staffed might look slightly different, but we all have the mandate to ensure that veterans are able to receive these services, whether it be on the paid side or the general side. General caregiver support program exists in all VAs.
So, and I'm aware of, because we're in Missouri, I'm thinking Missouri, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Poplar Bluff. Is there something around Springfield as well?
Columbia.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We have 4 VA medical centers in the state.
On the Missouri side.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and absolutely, we may have friends from our across the state line into Kansas and in Illinois listening to us as well. So don't want to discount that. And that toll-free number is good for across the U.S., right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Other questions? I'm looking for some more questions in the chat. Well, while we're waiting to see if we get any other questions, I have another poll for you that maybe we can see if anybody knew before this program came up. Did you know that the VA had a caregiver support program? Yeah, because I did not. As I said, I found this out kind of happenstance through a friend I grew up with because her daughter used to work there, and I found out about it. And I've worked with caregivers and veterans both for at least more than 10 years. So I should have known that. And I felt bad that I didn't, because it is such an amazing set of resources and direct services that you guys provide out there.
And you're not alone. I've only been with the VA for 6 years, but when I was working out in the community, I didn't know. So I learned stuff every day.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give the poll just another couple of seconds. And we're going to end that. And About 75% did not know that the caregiving programming existed through the VA. So really glad that we got that out there tonight. I hope people will take advantage of that. Does anybody else have any more questions for us before we start to wrap it up? All right. Well, if you don't have another question, you know that I have another poll for you. Just one quick one, because I think polls are fun and because, I want to know what next for you guys. And you can just tell me any or all of these. As a result of this program, are you going to do anything different? Nice. Yes, and the more of you that will share something you learned with friends or colleagues, the better. I really feel a little bit sad because so many of the resources that we have out there, particularly for caregivers, and caregivers or veterans is kind of a niche market, they kind of have to quilt together all the resources that they need. And the more that we can hand them those quilting pieces so that they can put together something that's going to cover them completely, the better it's going to be. So sharing this with friends, family, colleagues, somebody in line at the supermarket, whatever, just getting that word out there, I think is really important.
I give brochures in the elevators. You just never know.
Absolutely not. We all have networks and we maybe don't think about them as a network. You've got your religious institution, you've got your clubs, you've got your friend group, you got your book club, all kinds of places where you can just mention it. And if someone's interested, you can share the information with them. Because the program that you talked about tonight is really just fabulous. Although I have heard of some of the kinds of programming you're talking about, that paid caregiver support thing, that's amazing. Not income-based, not tax. I mean, that is just a fabulous program. It's all great resources and great supports for our folks who are caring for our veterans. All right, I'm going to stop that poll, but it looks like people are going to take some actions, and that is a good thing. And let's see what won our little poll there. It was a tie between downloading resources and sharing things that folks learn. So those are both great things to do, and we really appreciate that you did that. All right. I hope that if you have any more questions, you're going to put them in the chat before I start wrapping it up. Got some nice comments, and thank you guys for that. Great program, lots of amazing information. This was so informative. Thank you. No, thank you guys for showing up. That's awesome, and for being willing to share this. I really do hope that this overview has helped you kind of get focused on issues that you are or will be dealing with as a veteran and military caregiver. As always, I'm going to say check out AARP's free military caregiving guide at aarp.org/veterans. And there you'll find more in-depth information, resource lists, additional checklists, a sample weekly caregiving plan, all kinds of things that will help you get organized wherever you are in your caregiving journey. Now, Kim, do you have any last reminders or thoughts that you would like to share?
We're just really grateful that I was able to come and talk tonight. Thank you for having us. Anytime that we can offer any support, please call, 816-922-2044. That's our main number. My personal number at work is 816-922-2030. That was on one of our first slides. I know that you're going to share this. Those numbers are on that first screen for a reason. We really want to make sure that we're able to support and help. So reach out to us. We'll do what we can.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you so much for sharing your information and those personal contact numbers and services with us. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. Please remember to check out aarp.org/veterans for additional AARP resources for veterans. Really appreciate you joining and sharing all that you've learned tonight with friends and family and anybody that you meet. Thank you again. Goodbye, everybody.